Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to BusinessWorks. This is episode 7 of season 2. So before I go to the topic, let me talk a bit about our show. So our show, BusinessWorks, we talk about business topics. So this show is for all of you who wants to learn something new, especially the business community. You can be an employer, employee, or a student who wants to learn something new. And when we went through our topics that we had in our show, we got the idea that people like watching about tech and how this new technology is driving businesses and economies in the future. So we thought of doing more tech-related business shows and talking about all these emerging tech, emerging products, emerging businesses, so you get an idea as to what the future may look like in terms of businesses, in terms of education, in terms of working at a place, like for a company, or maybe you are a person who wants to start a company, a startup. You get something, you learn something new. So today, we are thinking of talking about the revolution in the construction industry. People are trying to make buildings in Mars. Well, of course, we are not talking about that particular element of it, but we are going to talk about the new technology that's driving the construction industry forward. And for that, I have invited a special guest who's actually an architect and also a very creative person who works with a lot of businesses, working with them, developing their marketing strategies, development strategies, and he has also worked with Tel Media developing our strategy for the company, business development strategy. So he has been my mentor as well, and he's also working closely with Hey Infinity. You must have heard of our AI partner. It was Hey Infinity, and now they have like rebranded themselves as Hey Infinity. That's with an H in the front. But anyways, we are going to talk a bit more about that particular company later on. But today, it's all about the construction industry. So let me get this special guest connected to our studio. So Neil Whitehead, the CEO and founder of Stuff Design International Limited. Neil, thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you, Angelo. Nice to be here.
And so before we go ahead with our show, let's talk a bit about you, Neil. You have a very interesting past, I would say. Like you have worked in several different areas. You're a rugby player, and now you are working on what, a golf. You're a lead of a golf club or like golf team.
Yes, I am.
So you have some interesting stuff going on. So let our viewers know a bit about you.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, I love sport, so that goes without saying. But probably around the conversation we're going to talk about today is I trained at Kingston University some years ago, and then came out and worked in the industry before I got involved with a very large company called Fitch. And Fitch was a global business. We've worked in 40 different countries all over the world. And I was one of the leading creative guys in that business and drivers. And I've always been really, really interested in the sort of technology and how technology can improve communication, particularly in a very diverse, complicated world like the construction industry. So you're going from guys on site who are painting and pouring concrete and stuff, right up to where there's original tech being built and pricing and costing. And the exciting thing at the moment, which is really exciting me, is the fact that the industry now is reaching, I think, a really exciting time. But unfortunately, this industry is a little bit slow in changing. And so what I'm hoping to do with talks like this and discussions with you guys is to try and open up everybody's eyes to what the possibilities are. Particularly now that C-19 has sort of hit us hard and is making us all think very differently about how we work. So that's a little bit about where I am at the moment, Angelo.
Right. And since we are talking about the construction industry, let's start off our show by saying, okay, we are talking about a revolution here. So in the construction industry, what is this revolution we are talking about, Neil?
Okay, so a little bit of context. Many moons ago, people used to sit at drawing boards and use a thing called a rotary, which is a pen that the younger generation probably wouldn't even know about. And we used to draw, we'd have massive teams working on all sorts of aspects of the detailing and so on and so forth. Then along came a thing called CAD, which we all know. And whilst I was at Fitch many years ago, we actually were one of the first companies ever to spend a vast amount of money then to set up a whole CAD team within the organisation. And this horrified everybody because it really meant that those skilled people who could draw beautifully with their hands and do all the various script that you needed to do in those days on the drawings suddenly looked like they weren't going to have a job. And what happened, in effect, was that when you were working on projects, you used to have about 5 or 6 people working on the project. And then when CAD came along, it could be done with one person, maximum 2. We're now entering a phase which is what is really exciting, and London South Bank University, which is of course where Angela, you and I have met and spent many times talking, their construction team there have basically adopted a software called Revit. And what Revit does is it's componentry. So you can click in the walls, the windows, you can do so many things really, really quickly. And in effect, you can do in days jobs that are taking weeks and months to do at the moment. But central to all of this, and the big idea that's going to revolutionize the industry, is that we need to set up like a dashboard, a technology dashboard, where everything feeds in so that everybody, including the client, can immediately see what the cost variations are if we change the design. We can see where the clashes are with three-dimensional helmets in VR when we're starting to construct a building. We're able to immediately make changes and let all the members of the teams, from the mechanical and electrical engineers to the structures engineers to the contractors and so on and so forth. So it really is a massive revolution. And the problem with change is everybody's nervous of that, because first thing they think about is losing their jobs. Second thing they worry about is, can I learn this technology? Will I be able to fit in the new world? But what I can tell you is it is really going to change the way we prefabricate our buildings, the way we work together as teams. We may not even need to go onto site to build it. We could probably do it with robotic cranes and stuff. So this technology, which I'm going to explain a little bit about today later, is, I think, a big turning point in our industry.
Right. When you talk about these new software packages and these new ways of doing things, I would like to ask a quick question, because like when you talk about the construction industry, it's when we had a conversation about construction industry, one thing that I understood was it's very slow to change. It doesn't change that a lot, like other industries. And it's traditionally very, very slow to changes, and you can't see that much of new tech emerging in this particular industry. How revolution, like when you say revolution, do you think that this is like a massive this is going to cause a massive impact in the construction industry?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a major disruptor. I think we're heading for this disruptive world. The problem that we have is that the technicians that can use these new componentry type software, the problem we've got is, of course, there's so few of them at the moment. And what tends to happen is when they come out of London South Bank, very, very proficient in this particular technology, and they go and join a company, that company then gets them to work in AutoCAD and the more traditional ways of working, because that's what they're used to. And so they almost immediately fall out of the industry. So the real issue here is to set up another industry, which is really like a technology platform, a sentiment platform, which all of the component parts are gathered on it, using technicians to translate all the drawings to fit on the platform, so that the actual client can walk through the jobs, the changes on the jobs, using a virtual headset, seeing where the clashes are, and then making those changes, and then they're automatically calculated in the costs, so that they can see the variations that are there live in almost like a 3D model. And that's possible now. It's just getting to a point where we get everybody comfortable with it. Probably it's going to be the next generation. Angelo, probably your generation that's going to embrace it, but it's definitely coming through very fast. And I can show you some examples of what we've been doing and how we're doing it and so on and so forth a little bit later. But I think it's an extremely exciting time.
So before we talk further about this matter, Neil, like what are the, like when you say CAD, is it a software? Can we explain a bit about the current technology that we use more in detail,
Yeah, I
so
can.
our viewers who
Yeah,
doesn't have a background in like construction, they
yeah,
can get a grip as to what we are talking about.
yeah. If you wouldn't mind just calling up slide 8, which I've got a little pack of slides there for you, but slide 8, if you could put that up, that would be great. So
Right.
in effect, what is the difference between the Revit package and the CAD package? Yeah. So with CAD, it's very two-dimensional. I mean, it originally was developed for aeroplane engineering and design. So it's very much linear. It's all about line. Okay. So if you look on the left-hand side and you go down the pink boxes, it's two-dimensional line. It has linear data and it's computer-based. Okay. With Revit, it's three-dimensional, and the reason for that is because it's componentry. So it's when I say componentry, what you do is you will pick walls, doors, windows, you will click them in to your plan, but what you then have is 3D richer data. It also links directly to VR, so immediately you have a VR model to walk around and have a look at it. It's incredibly fast to move. And that is really what is basically you can do jobs within days that take weeks and possibly months using the more traditional routes.
Right. So these are all software packages that we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Well, it's just two. It's Revit versus CAD. It's
CAD.
between linear and three-dimensional, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So CAD is a software package that they are using right now, and
Yeah.
some of the industry experts are trying to stride away from CAD because it's a 2D
Yeah.
model into a 3D model, which is the Revit software package. So we are
Yeah.
going to talk more about these particular packages and how it works in our second segment. But
Okay.
when you talk about these software packages, Neil, so when you said that certain companies are not even like thinking of using these new packages, so how
Yeah.
hard it is for a student like who's learning these new techniques to go back to a 2D software system
Yeah.
where it's the norm for the
Yeah.
industry at least for now. How hard it is to like to go for a much older software package.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is they learn it. I mean, CAD is not a particularly complicated package to use. Neither is Revit. The key to it all is, you've heard me say this before, is to be very proficient and skillful on something, you've got to spend 10,000 hours doing it. To fly an aeroplane or to play rugby to a very high level, you've got to put a lot of hours in. And so the issue is time. And what is happening with quite a few universities, not so many actually, but say 3 or 4, maybe 5 universities in the UK who are using and educating their students with Revit, what is happening there is they're coming out very proficient, but of course they've got to learn their trade. And if they continue to use Revit and move forward, then it is going to obviously be much more beneficial for them, more beneficial for the clients, much more beneficial for obviously the people who are employing them. But on the other hand, of course, they will still have the ability to use CAD. They will probably have proficiency in both. It's just that really, once you understand Revit, as I do, and I've developed it with a company from London South Bank, it is far superior for a whole host of reasons, which I would explain a little bit later on.
So Neil, I would also like to add to this particular sentence that you made, just said, because you are working with another company. We try to get these people in today, but unfortunately they were extremely busy.
He's too
But
busy. He's too busy working. The demands for him are too great.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And when I first met Neil, they were doing this revolutionary, I would say, way of doing architecture and then construction, and then construction
Yeah.
industry, I would say, using VR. So they were showing their architectural designs and then the VR system through a VR system. So all the designs, they can go into the rooms using a VR section. So it was revolutionary at that time, and some companies are implementing these strategies now. So that's why I thought Neil is the best person to talk about this revolution in the construction industry. And now we will be going for a quick break. And after the break, we will be talking about the implementation part. How are we doing this revolution? How are some companies doing this revolution that's coming? But before that, there are some messages from our sponsors. So I'll catch you guys in a bit.
At Fit to Trip, we want to offer travel insurance to as many people as possible. But all travel insurance companies want to do that, right? Well, no. If you suffer from a disability or have a medical condition, you may find that you're not covered by your current travel insurer. Deep in the small print, you'll see that most travel insurance policies will not cover medical or cancellation claims if you've suffered from or have an existing medical condition, like, for example, diabetes, heart disease or cancer. Fit to Trip is different. We use our online medical screening system to assess customers based on their medical condition and their destination, and provide them with travel insurance tailored individually, which covers them and their medical conditions whilst they're travelling. By just answering a few questions, you can get an instant quote from a choice of products that provide some of the highest cover levels in the market. So, enjoy travelling, safe in the knowledge that you and your family have that extra protection. Fit to Trip. Travel insurance to fit you.
This is my dad. He was once a bubbly, happy, and positive person. He had been a cancer patient for many years. When I was younger, I remember our long winter walks, the fun times in the park, and all of those hilarious jokes. After recovery, he was constantly tired, demotivated, and closed off. I didn't see the amazing smile anymore. That's when I developed my first well-being range using what my mom used on me as a kid, coconut oil. I incorporated coconut oil with my extensive research in aromatherapy oils to help improve his mood. So I gave him a moisturizer, diffuser, and candle, which we named Caribbean Mood. I saw a difference in him, and I saw the amazing smile he used to have. I knew I had to share this with the world. Okay, giving the organic lifestyle you deserve.
Welcome back to BusinessWorks, ladies and gentlemen. So you are joining, if you're just joining in, we are talking about the revolution of the construction industry, specifically the new tech that is revolutionizing the construction industry. But before we go ahead with our second segment, where we will be talking about how these new software packages work, I would like to inform about the past programs that we had, and you can watch all our past programs on our YouTube channel. So all you have to do is, and make sure you subscribe and press that notification icon so you get all the information about our upcoming shows. We will always have a really interesting topic, and you'll get the notification once we upload the name of the topic. But you can watch all the shows even after the stream, and you can get all the information about our guests, all the information about their companies, if you click the information tab. But today, we are talking about the construction industry with Neil Whitehead. So we were talking about the revolution, the new software packages that revolutionizing the construction industry. And now we are going to talk about how we use it and how it works. So let me get Neil connected back to our studio to talk about how these software packages work. Neil, so how does this work?
Okay, so I'll try and simplify this as I can. Could you put up slide 2 for me, if you wouldn't mind? Okay, so the diagram you see here is a typical flow diagram of what takes place when constructing a building. And I'm not going to go through every single bit of it, but in fact, the starting point is the programming. There is conceptual design, which is linked in very much to planning consent, detailed design. And all the way through here, you are bringing together and collaborating with many, many, many different skills, from engineers to construction workers to craftspeople to so many other things. And the current way it's done and managed is you have a project manager that sits in the middle, and a lot of the data is moved through PDFs, through emails and so on and so forth, which unfortunately get mislaid. Or the worst thing that happens to me in my industry, I make a change to a drawing on for argument's sake, a PDF that's number 50, and then the engineer goes back and says, no, you've not seen my latest one. It is number, you haven't seen my latest work, or my latest PDF. So it becomes incredibly complicated. It is all controlled by one person. No one can see what's going on. And when you make variation orders, is when you change things, often the client doesn't really understand what's going on. So therefore he's blind and can't see what decisions he's making, and he tends to focus on price. If you could go to, if you wouldn't mind, if you could go to slide 3, I'll then explain a typical model at the moment. It's a little bit small, but this would be a typical project for us, which we would have a team on to work on. Okay, the blue square at the top is the client, and then what I want you to concentrate on is the yellow square. So each of the skill bases that you see, from architectural design, which is all the blue areas with different skill mixes in there, will be done there. You've then got engineers, which you can see all the engineering drawings that take place, and you've got structures and mechanical and electrical and all of that. At the moment, all of those, all that information is in singular silos, which are then distributed through PDFs. What we're doing is we are building a platform, that yellow area, which, as you can see with the diagrams, is using virtual reality and pulling all the componentry parts using Revit onto that platform so that it can be seen at any time, and any clashes, i.e. when a beam or something hits something else and isn't correct, will be flagged up. And this isn't in the industry at the moment. The technology platform is not in the industry because the engineers use Revit for their own use, and then the other guys, do their own thing as well. So it's very difficult to get a clear dashboard. Okay, so Angela, did I explain that well? Because I'm using you as my. That's the
Yeah,
problem. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's very clear as to
Yeah.
as to
Okay.
what the procedure is. Yeah.
So once that's in place, now I'll go to simpler stuff. If you could just go to number 13, if you wouldn't mind, to sort of try and explain how this works. Here is a model which we did when we were developing it. If you look on the left-hand side, that's a typical drawing, but it's done in Revit, so it's done in 3 dimensions. Okay, the construction data below is automatically embedded in that software, and not only that, you can link it to sun tracking systems and everything else for light. From that drawing, I just press a button and I get a 3-dimensional model that you see in the middle. In all of those elements that you see there are componentry things that can be drawn off, manufacturers' catalogs and so on and so forth. We then press it and put it into virtual reality. We can make changes in virtual reality and see how it goes. So everything is around just doing that one straightforward drawing with the dimensions and the componentry. Okay, so that's how the system works. All right.
Right.
Let me see which is the next slide I might want to. Right. Yeah. If you just go to number 15, if you wouldn't mind. If you go to number 15, this shows you how the componentry works. This was drawn, I promise you, in a very short period of time, about a day. It's a very, very large shopping centre in Northampton. But if you could look at the drawing on the top right-hand corner, you can see how all that componentry explodes out. That's how the drawing's done. If we use CAD, it's all done by line and connected. This isn't. It's all done in that way. And what that enables you to do when you are designing things is what that is able you to do. If you could go to number 20, all right. So once you've got into all the tech lined up, everything's done. And by the way, we can do surveys by satellite that will be accurate within 50 millimeters on the buildings themselves. But just to give you an example how flexible it is, we had to come up with a few ideas. This one is for a student residence. So if you could then click to the next slide. The next slide, can you do the next one? Or do you need a number from me? Number 21. The local planning authority didn't like the height of the building and they didn't like the way we put it into the context of what we were designing. So we then were asked to look at a different scheme. So again, within a day, no more, we used the componentry design and we dropped this in, which is 3-dimensional, and obviously it's got VR capability. And if you could move to number 22, again, what the planners wanted us to do was to reflect the design of the front of the building. So if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you can see there's a lot of verticality in that design. But then we needed to, with the residence block, we needed to reflect that. And that's the planning scheme that's going through. Now, in a previous life, I promise you to do 3 of those drawings there would have cost an astronomical amount of money. Maybe 60, maybe 100, maybe £200,000. All of this was done for under £10,000. So that shows you how the flexibility goes, but more importantly is that technology platform that feeds all that stuff into it so that we can get very quick responses, very quick costs, and the client, the most important thing is the client is able to see the changes that are required, which is the most difficult thing, because I've spent my life doing architecture. I have a 3-dimensional mind, I can see things, but it's not necessarily a God-given thing for everybody. So to help people understand and make them understand why they're doing the decisions is a very important thing. So I hope that helps.
Indeed, Neil. And then I just, like when you started explaining this, I have a brief question for you. Like, let's say when you talk about this new system, this new 3D system, you were talking about, there will be less time.
It's been in the market about 7 years. 7 years it's been in the market, yeah.
Okay. So
it's been in the market for 7 years.
So what do you think about the time and the resources and the money that people spend on, let's say someone's constructing a shopping mall, and then if a construction company is using Revit opposed to CAD, what are the benefits that that they will gain? Is it time? Is it resources? Let's say, is it the money that you spend? What are the main
Yeah,
benefits
you
of
will
this?
reduce. Yeah, you will reduce your workforce by half, maybe more. It will be incredibly fast. It is taking away a lot of the skill base in the industry, like quantity surveyors are very skillful people, but this is an automatic AI system that can automatically, can automatically work when you're, when you're using the system, because any changes immediately comes onto a spreadsheet. So whilst the QS will be there setting up maybe the data, once it's up and running, it will be very fast. And the other thing that it will do is it will enable all of the team to constantly be able to see how their drawings, how their designs, how their variations are working. A lot of expenditure goes in errors and making mistakes due to the fact that all the information is being managed in silos. So you have a silo of structures, a silo of M&E, and then of course you have architecture and so on and so forth. And in those silos, if with this, everybody can see it. So you're going to reduce the staff, it's going to be more efficient, there's going to be less errors, less legal battles, and so on and so forth. The problem is there aren't enough people that are capable of managing and using this technology. And of course, every company to transfer over to using it will have to buy everybody in the company a computer for at least £7,000, and will have to pay a very big licensing fee to use it. So in order to move to this new technology, there is a cost, yeah? And then you've got to have the technicians that have got to do it, and that's where we have a big shortfall. I cannot find Revit operators, cannot find them. And I've gone all over the world. So I've tried India, I've tried all over the world. But slowly but surely, there are universities moving with it. And I hope, I really do hope, and I certainly will continue to move in this area, is I think this is it's for the industry to start to embrace new technologies and start to move things forward in a very fast way.
So this particular software will save loads of money and also time, as Neil says.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we are gonna, in our next segment, we will be talking about the practical usage of this software, and Neil will talk about some practical examples of using this software. But before that, we are gonna go on to a quick break. But before I end this segment, I would like to remind you that if you are just joining in and if you are just watching the show, make sure you subscribe. And if you also have your questions, make sure you comment below and join the discussion. This is the benefit of our live shows. You get to join our discussion, you get to share your thoughts, you get to ask your questions. And this is why we love to bring this show live. And so you get a chance of participating. And make sure you subscribe. Press the notification icon like I explained before. This will give you all the notifications from our YouTube channel on our upcoming shows, on our new topics, and you get to see all the past shows and everything that we post on our YouTube channel. So we will be back talking about practical examples of this new technology after this break.
AI Infinity really is about helping companies to enable them to use AI at the optimum level and to be more AI-driven companies to solve complicated use cases about the fraud, an example, or maybe customer engagement, facial recognition, and we just wanted to help them to be that. We would see ourselves as visionaries in detecting some edge computing on a very real-time basis of applications what we have here to enable companies to apply in different verticals.
At Fit2Trip, we want to offer travel insurance to as many people as possible. But all travel insurance companies want to do that, right? Well, no. If you suffer from a disability or have a medical condition, you may find that you're not covered by your current travel insurer. Deep in the small print, you'll see that most travel insurance policies will not cover medical or cancellation claims if you've suffered from or have an existing medical condition, like, for example, diabetes, heart disease or cancer. Fit2Trip is different. We use our online medical screening system to assess customers based on their medical condition and their destination, and provide them with travel insurance tailored individually, which covers them and their medical conditions whilst they're travelling. By just answering a few questions, you can get an instant quote from a choice of products that provide some of the highest cover levels in the market. So, enjoy travelling, safe in the knowledge that you and your family have that extra protection. Fit2Trip. Travel insurance to fit you.
Welcome back to BusinessWorks, episode 7, where we are talking about the construction industry and the revolutionary tech that is driving the industry forward. So we have a special guest, Neil Whitehead, talking about the subject. And now we are talking about the practical examples of all we spoke about. We spoke about a very special software, Revit, if I got it right. So CAD was a software that traditionally the construction industry and the architectural industry used, and now it's transferring into Revit, where it's a 3D modeling program where you can implement VR technology to further increase the experience of this software. So we were talking about all these implications and how it works, and now we are talking about some examples. But before we start the segment, if you have any questions or suggestions or any remarks that you want to share, now's the time. Place a comment below. And if you have any questions, we'll ask the questions in our next segment. So you'll get all the answers for all your questions. And now let me get Neil connected back to our studio. Neil, let's go to some practical examples.
Yeah, okay. So let me take you through a little journey. So if we could go to slide 12, if you would be kind enough to do that. So this is really this is sort of the clever end of it, of the software. What you have to do is you put all the drawings in, all the componentry, which of course, as we've talked before, is faster and uses less people to do it. It's very effective. And then there is all the different types of software that can be hooked into the Revit to produce virtual reality walkthroughs using headsets to do so. The trick about virtual reality is, for those of you that are really into the technology, you need to make sure where your data points are within the certain areas of a building. So if you've got a very big building, like on the right-hand side at the top, obviously you don't want to go through the whole building because that's very expensive to do. But actually you might want to pick out the reception area, which is the bottom left-hand side, and then you would data point that and render it, and then someone would put a helmet on and then walk through that whole building as if it was here live. It's a three-dimensional model, so it's extremely exciting for someone who has seen the drawings and then they're shown how it looks in reality. If you could go at the other end of the spectrum, and if you could then go to slide 16, yeah? This is the thing that has really got to be understood. Providing the engineers, the MEP guys, mechanical, electrical, are all working one-in-one. This is a Revit drawing from an engineer, and what you can see is all of the ducting that's going on behind those beautiful images. Now, what happens when you're designing and working together as a collaborative team? Often you need a ducting that will affect the internal space, and therefore you need as a team to be able to see it on this technology, sentiment technology platform, and then make the adjustments because the ceilings are too low as a clash with a beam. And then you can even walk around these models with a virtual reality thing. So I could go into this building, walk along, look at where the ducting is without the ceilings, see where the clashes are, and then get those corrected. And then we could go to a client and say, look, if we do this particular idea and go this way, it's going to cost you £15,000. If we do it this other way, it's going to be £25,000, but it's a much better result for your product. And they would put the helmet on and they would see the impact of that, both from a technical point of view, but more importantly, the virtual reality thing will have changed in the foreground there. So it shows you the dexterity of how it's a total solution with everybody working and seeing together. That's the power of this, yeah?
Right.
So that's a couple of sort of practical solutions, yeah?
And Neil, when you talk about VR systems, can you not use the CAD software system to generate a VR image where you can walk around the design?
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, it's a fair question, and the answer is yes. Of course, you can, and of course, you can use Adobe and all the various things that you need to get those the renditions and stuff. That all is still around and can be layered on it. The thing that the most important thing is that it's an integral three-dimensional model of the whole building before it's built to make all of those decisions. It's a real time, real design, but it's digital, and that will save. We always account for around about 5 to 10% for what we call variation orders. So when things change, we allow that. Can you imagine a job of £100 million with 5% as an error rate on that job? And when we use this sort of technology, we might have an error rate of 0.5%. So can you imagine saving £5 million just on the fact that the technology is working in an integrated, collaborative way? Yeah.
Indeed.
So that's the sort of thing we're talking about.
So the error margins are really low as well, isn't it?
Yeah. If everyone is on this platform, working on this platform, and delivering on this platform, then that is absolutely for sure. And the problem, of course, is training, investment in technology for everyone to be in that way, and a resilience in the industry for people who are frightened of losing their jobs, not being useful anymore, and so on and so forth. And as I would say, the same thing when we talk about AI, technology changes. It just means it gives you more time to do things in a different way, as long as you are flexible and engaging, and you want to learn and move forward. Right. But the other thing I think that's a really important thing about this as well, when we start getting to this level of technology, I think we could get to a point where we could prefabrication of buildings, new technologies for building. I mean, I'm talking now, we're doing quite a lot of residential work for obvious reasons at the moment, and we're all looking at new methodologies for building and pouring and structures, and you can have all of this prefabricated in a factory, arrive on site, pin everything in, build it within days like a hoof house. And again, that's saving time, saving money, and it's also working with the sustainable footprint and all those things that we think are important for our future and the future of the world. So rather than having reinforced concrete, pouring concrete, trucks, lorries, diesel, it can all be done much more efficiently, and possibly to some extent remotely. You could have remote crane drivers erecting these things with 4 or 5 cranes strategically placed on the site to build it. So can you see that the way this will change forever, the way that work is done? Yeah. Indeed. In certain buildings. I mean, some will still carry on the same way. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's a journey that will change, and you'll see changes in it over the next 10 to 20 years. But there is definitely, with the technology and what I've shown you today, I hope you can see what is potentially quite an exciting time.
Indeed. And Neil, just a quick question. So when you talk about using this new software package, has there any projects been completed using this new software
Yeah,
package?
many, many. It's been around. It's been in the market for 7 years, for sure. Engineers, it's absolutely perfect for engineers because it's got all the calculations and stuff on it. They do it. The trouble is that tends to work in a silo. Where it's not having any impact really is architectural practices are getting there. Fosters are doing it now, and there's one or two others that are, starting to use it quite avidly. Where there is a little bit of a problem is when you start to get into the construction industry. They're slower at accepting these new methodologies, and so that's where we get a block. And also, when I start projects, I insist everybody operates off Revit. So that's the way I do it. And then I force other people to buy the Revit packages and that. And slowly but surely, the engineers and a few of the others are starting to come around. But it's going to have to be a lot more people than myself. That
Okay,
will change
so
it.
perfect. And like we are getting some questions coming in. So if
Good.
you are watching the show right now, you can
Yeah.
comment below, drop more questions in, and we have around 3 questions. And we will be answering all these questions after this break. But before the break, remember, if you are just joining in, subscribe to our account, to our YouTube channel. You'll get to see all our upcoming shows, and we always have some interesting topics, so you can learn something new. And today, I hope you are learning something new about the construction industry. And we will be answering your questions after this break.
AI Infinity really is about helping companies to enable them to use AI at the optimum level and to be more AI-driven companies to solve complicated use cases about the fraud, an example, or maybe customer engagement, facial recognition, and we just wanted to help them to be that. We would see ourselves as visionaries in detecting some edge computing on a very real-time basis of applications. What we have here to enable companies to apply in different verticals.
At Fit2Trip, we want to offer travel insurance to as many people as possible. But all travel insurance companies want to do that, right? Well, no. If you suffer from a disability or have a medical condition, you may find that you're not covered by your current travel insurer. Deep in the small print, you'll see that most travel insurance policies will not cover medical or cancellation claims if you've suffered from or have an existing medical condition, like for example diabetes, heart disease or cancer. Fit2Trip is different. We use our online medical screening system to assess customers based on their medical condition and their destination, and provide them with travel insurance tailored individually, which covers them and their medical conditions whilst they're travelling. By just answering a few questions, you can get an instant quote from a choice of products that provide some of the highest cover levels in the market. So, enjoy travelling, safe in the knowledge that you and your family have that extra protection. Fit2Trip. Travel insurance to fit you.
Welcome back to BusinessWorks, episode 7, where we are talking about the revolution in the construction industry. And we are talking about this new software package that will help the construction industry and also revolutionize the construction industry, which most of the industry experts are not using yet, but this will be a major software package that people will be using in the future. And we have Neil Whitehead, who's talking about the usage of this software, where he uses this software. And, like he recommends people using this because of the advantages, like the money. You save a lot of money, you save a lot of time, and then you'll, when you design, the designs of your company will be more accurate than the other software package, than the CAD. So the accuracy rate is higher than other software packages. But before we go into our Q&A segment, if you're just joining in, make sure you subscribe to our channel. And also, I hope you guys are enjoying the weather. We are clearly not in our studio. We are just drenching right now. It's extremely hot. And hope you guys are enjoying. It was a bit rainy a few minutes ago, but still the heat is kicking in and all the lights are increasing the heat in our studio. But anyways, we are answering your questions now. So we have our first question. Let me get Neil connected back to our studio to answer your question. So Neil,
Yeah,
we have some questions coming in. If we can get our first question on our ticker, please. We have a question from Rebecca, Neil. So let me read it out for you. Is it easy to use this new software package? So I think she's asking about the ease of use and how easy to maybe to learn this new software as well. So shall we talk a bit about that then?
Yeah, the answer is it's a lot easier to use. It's like anything that you use for the first time. There are peculiarities. There is, particular hierarchies that you have to work out how it works. And of course, I've used a number of different packages over the years, and I still use different packages now because it's just the way I'm made. And it always takes me a little while, so a little bit of practice. But no, it is extremely easy to use. It is slightly more mathematical than perhaps the CAD systems are, or the drawing, the CAD Rhino and all of those. It is definitely more mathematical. It is definitely componentry. But the key to it all is that you basically have components, so you don't have to draw double walls and doors and lots of lines and line things through and check it. It's a very, very easy package to use. It's also very easy, and I can see this becoming in the future. I think there will be, and there is, absolutely bucket loads of manufacturing templates that they are putting out there in the market, because obviously if you're building a 20-story building and you want to use a window, they would love it if you picked up one of their templates and put it into your drawing, because obviously that's a lead for them to getting some work. But the point about it is, if you can imagine working with a Lego set and you just pick up the various things that you want, drop it in, and it's built for you. Yeah. Where it gets a bit tricky is which is one of the areas I get into a lot, is when I'm redesigning things that aren't standard. Then it will take you quite a bit of time while you design that product, and then obviously you put that into the library, and then you can use that to drop into your drawings as you want to. Okay.
Right. So Rebecca, I hope you got the answer for your question. But at the same time, Neil, let's talk a bit about the universities that teach us this new software package. And I know that LSBU does. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, LSBU, I mean, we both, are connected to the university, is in construction one of the top faculties in the country. I mean, they are, without doubt, they are sort of leading edge in what they do. And they have adopted this package 7 years ago. when it first came out, because they can see it. But also, please understand, there are many engineering practices that are using it, and there are, I suspect, around the world, quite a few architectural practices also using it. Where it seems to be less used is in the construction industry, but then someone will probably contact me and say, well, we've been using it for years. But generally, it's only 7 years old. Therefore, if you think about it, the guys coming through the university over the last 7 years, they probably graduate, I don't know, maybe 100 people a year. It's 700, and quite a few of those would have been taken back into using CAD and more traditional packages. So the reality is there isn't enough of these types of operators in the world. And I'm sending messages out all the time on LinkedIn to try and find people that do it. And the message I always get is like, well, I do CAD Rhino. And I go, no, I really do need Revit, because it's the way, it's a great collaborating tool. You know, that's the power of this. It collaborates. So the answer is that you know, there aren't enough people out there. So please go onto YouTube, have a look at it, get some samples, see how you feel about it, and it's a very good product. Take a little bit of getting used to using it, because it's different methodology, but we'll be good. Okay.
And yes, so if you guys are interested in learning about this, you can, you know, like get in touch with LSBU, or you can also message Neil on LinkedIn. I have included all his information in the information section of this particular video, and hope you.
There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, the usual stuff. You can find the information in the usual way. Yeah.
Perfect. And then we have Mike. Will the building designs change in the future? So Mike, that's your question. Let me check whether
that's a great question, and the answer is yes, Mike, tremendously. I mean, I'm working on projects now that are solving problems in different ways. I think the way that I think prefabrication will become a much bigger thing. I think carbon footprint will become a big issue. I do a little bit of work with the Bartlett, which is the architectural school at UCL, and if I go down to their studio, they've got guys there that are decompressing materials to see what particles are exploded from into the air, and obviously for a number of reasons, for the eco value, for the health reasons, and all the rest of it. So I think materials and use of materials and building methodology is going to change absolutely significantly going forward. It will be cheaper, faster, and much more sustainable. And I think with modern technology, the way we start to build our buildings, and and how we deliver and construct on site, is going to change significantly. I'm working on a project with a really quite forward-thinking contractor in High Wycombe, and he's completely remodeled the building and done it in a completely different configuration to putting bricks and things in. He's built it in record time. It's got it's sustainable. It's good for heat retention and so on and so forth. So yes, I think we're in for some exciting times. Very much so.
Perfect. And if someone's here listening, joining in, you can get in touch with Neil. He does various projects around the country. If you need some help in any projects, or if you need to get his help on any building projects or architectural projects, he's there, and all the information is down below. And we have another question from Susan. How will VR help the construction industry? We spoke a bit about the VR and how the VR technology, virtual reality technologies are implemented in this particular sector. But maybe we can give a clarification for her, Neil.
Yeah, I can.
If you may.
On two major levels, really. When you're working on multidiscipline projects, the problem is the client is very dependent on the architect if the architect is taking the project right the way through. Unfortunately, because of legislation and so forth, architects in 1988 were not necessary to be in charge of all projects. So the project manager has become that key person in that role. Okay, the problem that the client has is if you start to change things, move a window, knock a wall down, you see a clash where a beam hits it, it's not fair to ask the client to visualize that in their own mind, because it's a very specific skill. The problem you have with a project manager, there are very good project managers, but they are not architects. We are trained to think three-dimensionally. So the problem you have is often the project manager doesn't quite see what the issue is, the client hasn't got anything to see what the issue is, and there isn't an architect around because we're too expensive, so we've done our bit and we're out of the game. What can happen with VR, of course, is that they can then put all the stuff onto the tech platform and then create a VR walkthrough, and the client can absolutely see as if it's real what the problem is. So I think it's going to be fantastic for putting the power of decision making back in the client's hands, whereas at the moment it's reliant on a project manager who tends to look at the quickest way of doing it and the most cost effective, but not necessarily the best from a design point of view and a value point of view for the property. So I think that is definitely going to work that way. And I think in the long term, we're going to have real time working together with architects, engineers, construction guys, all working together in the putting together of information. We'll be working using VR going forward, so we can all see the problems that are starting to emerge. So I think VR is going to become a much more important product. Its real strength, obviously, is in the creative end at the front end, which is the imagination end and trying to get across complex ideas. It's a fantastic selling tool, but I think it's got a lot to offer going forward. The other thing that's going to happen now is you're going to get augmentation glasses, which Apple are bringing out. There are models now where if I put my app onto a plan, it will show a three-dimensional section of how it all works. It suddenly, off the plan, will show you the 3D because of the way the augmentation goes. So I think you're going to see people walking around sites with glasses like Apple are producing, but that will also be giving you three-dimensional data of 2 dimensions, and it could well be augmenting what those changes might be in those designs. That is the exciting world we are coming into. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And we can talk a bit about all of these new elements in a separate show because it's a vast area. And we need a lot of time to talk about all these implications of AR, VR, MR. And we will have a separate show to talk about all these new emerging tech that will drive and that will change our future as we know it. And for now, unfortunately, our time is up for today's discussion. And thank you very much, Neil, for joining in. And then
it's a pleasure. Thanks for the questions. And anybody wants to get hold of me, I'm on LinkedIn and all the rest of it. Very happy to lead the revolution.
Indeed. And what I'll do is I'll put all the information down below after the show, so you get to see all the information about Neil and how you can get in touch with Neil. And before we end the show, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you press that notification icon so you get and we have a very special show coming up. So you'll get all these notifications if you subscribe and press that notification icon. So you won't miss a single show. And next show is about this very special product, a very special product that is AI driven, artificial intelligence driven, that will give an idea about a brand, about what people think about your brand. So if you're a business owner, this will be very interesting. And if you're a customer, this will be really interesting too, because you get an idea about this new technology that can actually show what people think about, let's say banks, let's say all these brands, these financial institutes, governments, anything's possible with this particular software. We will be talking about this software next week. So make sure you join our show and make sure you join our conversation, because we will be having some live product demonstrations of this software. And that is for next week. So today's topic, the revolution of the construction industry. I hope you learned something new about this new software packages, the new revolutionizing technology, and the future of construction industry and the architectural industry. I hope you learned something new. That's the purpose of our shows, to get you some free knowledge. So in return, all you can do is subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends, family, fellow businessmen, fellow customers, or fellow employees, employers. just share it. That's the most important thing. Let's share knowledge. And with that, we'll end this segment, and I'll catch you next week with a really interesting topic, as I mentioned. For now, have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I'll catch you next Thursday at 5 p.m. Take care.